Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth, from the truth, from the truth, from the truth.
Hey, y'all. A little bit of Southern there. This is Opposing the Matrix, and we just want to welcome you to our show. It's been a whole week since we've been with you folks, and, well, it's been an interesting week news-wise, to say the least. Every week seems to be interesting news-wise anymore with what would you call it? The proletariat that's leading our nation. There's never a dull moment. There's no surprises anymore either. You start reading stuff or looking at stuff or listening to stuff, and it's like, things that would take you by surprise or really shock you 10 years ago don't do that anymore. Right, Jim?
Yeah. I went to the grocery store the other day, and on my way in, there's two women hand in hand and giving a little peck on the lips as they're coming out. And today, when I was at Gibraltar doing a flea market, and there's a redheaded guy in a plaid dress, high heels, nylons, lipstick, eyeshadow, and everything else is pure man. And it was just, oh man,
Yeah, I do know.
That in public 20 years ago, you wonder what is going on. Now it's supposedly, of course, everybody acted like, everything was just normal and everything. And of course, that's the political correct way to do it. We're all accepting everything. I'm thinking maybe I should start dressing up as a Klingon and walk around going, Moch, Kimach, or something. See if everybody's going to treat me normal.
Jim, a few months ago when that whole Bruce Jenner thing started to come out, no pun intended, he was on TV and he categorically denied liking men, and he categorically stated that he still liked women. And I told my wife, I said, that's going to change. That's a bunch of baloney, and he's going to come out being gay, for sure. Or whatever they call it these days, LBGT, I don't know, they have all these different letters. But anyway, so I was looking online the other day, and sure enough, there was an article, Bruce Jenner is looking for a man that will treat him like a woman. And I'm like, okay, well, there we go. That man, it only took 2 months for that to come out, And as time progresses, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. It's not going to take as much time for things like that to come out. And between the revelation that someone is not born the right sex, that God made a mistake. That's, Jim, that's the whole thing, is they're trying to say that God made a mistake. And I'm sorry, but he made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And if he gave you all the parts to be a man, you're a man. And if you've got these thoughts and desires, then, well, they're not from God, and you need to realize where they're coming from. And when you finally realize it, you need to repent and come to him, because he's the only one that can save you from that. I've known a couple or three gays that all came to faith in Jesus, and after that, bam, they got married and had kids and everything else. And it's kind of, it's been explained to me, Jim, that it's kind of like alcoholism, in that once that thing is there, it's very hard to suppress. Well, the Lord can remove it and free them, sure, but even with an alcoholic that comes to Jesus, a lot of them, if they take another drink, they can stumble again, and that's why when our former associate was trying to convince people that drinking was okay compared to the Bible, I mean, not compared, but in light of the Bible, and I was like, well, what about all the alcoholics out there that are now going to think it's okay to drink and go back to drinking liquor, So anyway, we really have to be careful what we say and what we do and how we categorize things. But, it's I predicted it right from the start. My wife will witness that for me, that I said, yeah, that's not going to last long. He's going to come out, and he's just going to be like every other, I guess, what do they call them, transgenders or something like that. So weird stuff. And it's not just that. It's everything, Jim. It's, politically wise, politically correct. You can't say certain things. Socially, you can't say certain things. Well, hey, you'd be proud of me, Jim. I did my thesis in my one English class about political correctness causing chaos in the church. And I love my professor, man. He's a great guy, and but he, for some reason, he just couldn't see it, and it finally hit me, Jim. The guy probably grew up in a well, I think he was Syrian Orthodox, if I'm not mistaken. So he probably grew up in that church, never left it, still is a member of that church or that denomination, and never has gotten around to different churches to see all the corruption that's out there, and so, he really gave me a lot of fodder for one of the arguments that people would use against my thesis, and
He's Orthodox, right? You said Greek Orthodox?
I believe so, yeah, if I've got the right guy,
Orthodox
online.
Church is just like the Catholic Church used to do everything in Latin, and nobody understood Latin, so you might as well be talking in tongues and giving a whole sermon on that. Wow, we're getting a lot out of that, aren't we?
Yeah,
Greek Orthodox, they speak ancient Greek. They don't even speak current Greek, so the current Greeks that are going to the Greek Orthodox can't understand a blasted thing that the priests are saying because they're speaking in that ancient Greece, which is more of a Aramaic blend.
Right.
So, I'm not surprised that they wouldn't have any reference point or index point to churches because they don't even understand their own church.
Exactly.
About the Word of God. So.
But, I got to say that he gave me an A for it. Or no, he gave me a B plus for it. But, I could have gotten much worse of a grade. And a lot of it was because I didn't have the right structure or whatever. But anyway, it was just interesting to run into that, in a Christian college.
Well, the new ploy that we see being played out on TV, and not only are they trying to put us black against white, white against black, cops against civilians, citizens, Black Lives Matter movement. That's not racist, though. Black Lives Matter.
It's reverse discrimination, reverse racism.
Doesn't Brown Lives Matter? Doesn't infant babies? Well, we know babies don't matter. I mean, we got Planned Parenthood. It's crazy, but it's nothing new. It's been done before. All of this happened just 60, 70 years ago. It's just a replay of history. The old cliche that, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Well, is almost as if we are in right around 1930. I'd have to say probably 34. 34 was the Night of the Long Knives. Mm-hmm. The Night of the Long Knives was a transference.
In Germany, right?
Yeah, the Nazi regime needed to assert order, law, justice within the cities. They were going through the worst depression that the world has ever gone through. They were hit with a double dose because they had the Versailles Treaty that literally cut off Germany from being able to expand its resources, utilize any kind of industry or anything. They were limited in their military to 100,000 people. There were restrictions that hindered business, hindered commerce. You had unions that were strong, backed by the communists, that also put a stranglehold on their ability to produce. So when Hitler came in on the scene, he gave many speeches about the corrupt Weimar government, and the corruption that was going on there was the identically same thing the United States is going on, where all of a sudden it's no longer a free market society, but it's a society governed and dictated in a form of corporate fascism, where the politicians were bought out by industry, big business, and the rich elite, and did things their way, what they wanted. Well, in the cities, it was hostile. People were hungry. People were denied food, jobs, medical attention. There was a form of welfare, but it didn't really produce anything to encourage or uplift person out of their circumstances. It was primarily to placate them and keep them from rioting and killing everybody and each other. And it didn't work. So Hitler needed a strong arm of assertiveness to create order in the city. in the main metropolitan areas. So here's where the brown shirts come in. And they first portrayed themselves as the guardians of the underdogs. They're going to establish peace and safety, and the people desired it and they wanted it. A few years down the road, and all of a sudden they're living like kings. They're actually acting like the mob, selling protection to preferred customers that pay enough. The whole thing got corrupt. They ended up becoming so feared by the people, the very people that embraced them and wanted them and accepted them as their liberators. Now they became the slaves. So this was Hitler had achieved what he wanted. He had accomplished a certain amount of passivity by force, by brute force, through the SA. Now the next step, he needed to encourage and be on the side of people that now started thinking that maybe Hitler had betrayed them, and that was the rich elite and the industrial society. He was ready to launch out war to get living space for Germany, and to do that, he needed to get rid of the SA. He didn't need the rough and tumble people. Now it was time for the SS to come in, who were college degreed, refined, highly educated, and let's say far crueler than the SA could ever be. The SA was basically blue-collar, rough and tumble people. The SA were more or less, could I say, demonic academics. Right. I mean, they were politically sociopaths believing in the pan-German movement that made them detached from most of society and only to a rich elite were they sworn to, Hitler being one of them. So they enter into the scene, and they appear to be the liberators, liberating the people in the cities from these thugs. The Night of the Long Knives, that's when all the SA was rounded up, executed. I mean, there was you didn't have to fake out. The American way we do these things is to create slander. This guy was, this general was, bedding down with this woman and created this kind of thing, or this other one was, breaking other smaller laws. And I don't mean to slight what they're doing, but they would generate and create, even fabricate some of these things, claims against the major leaders. And we have lost, I think, 28 or 30 major generals and in the American Army and armed forces, rather, across the board, who really, probably half of them didn't really do anything, and the other half, whatever they did, was certainly smaller than what Clinton did or other presidents, recently have been caught doing. But this was their way of eliminating. And in communist Russia or Nazi Germany, they just take them out and shoot them, like they did in the Long Knives. But the Long Knives was a transfer point. Then, from 1934 to 1938, all the laws started changing. We are going to protect you. Just like, the police, they're beating on minorities. They're beating on everybody, in the inner city. We have to do something to control this. Okay, we're going to put cameras on you so that you have to be accountable for every contact you have with people. Now, in the inner city, they're thinking, yeah, this is a great idea. All right, now the cops have to be accountable. They can't, they can't beat us up. And I really wonder to what degree and how much this is really going on. When you have an enemy that's playing both ends from the middle, you find in most of these cases that break out where, they get physical with the people, and I'm not saying all of them, but many cases, the cops are saying, get on the ground, sit down, don't move, get out of your car, put your hands up in the air, and they're not doing it. It's like you don't argue with the cop is a cop. If he says put your hands up over your head, put them over your head. Don't start running away. You're going to get beat up. They're going to chase you down. They're going to beat you up. That's just what happens. So a lot of this is trumped up. A lot of it is causing an us-them situation.